She switched back to English. No, thank you. I am fine. I spent the rest of the day pretending to be the perfect hostess while Greta made little comments in German whenever she thought I could not understand. She called me simple. She called me boring. She said Marcus deserved better. And I smiled through all of it, taking mental notes of every word. That evening, Marcus came home with flowers. He handed them to me with a big smile. I thought you could use these after babysitting my mother all day. I thanked him and put them in a vase. We had dinner together, and again, Marcus and Greta slipped into German. This time, the conversation was more detailed. Greta asked him about someone named Annika. Marcus said Annika was doing well and that she understood him in ways I never could. He said Annika spoke his language literally and figuratively. He said he just needed to wait for the right time. I excused myself from the table, saying I had a headache. I went upstairs and sat on the edge of our bed. My hands were shaking. Annika. Who was Annika? I pulled out my laptop and did what any suspicious wife would do. I searched for Annika on Marcus's social media accounts. He did not have much posted, but I found one photo from 6 months ago. It was taken at a business conference in New York. Marcus was standing with a group of colleagues, and one of them was a tall, blonde woman with a name tag that read Annika Hoffman. I clicked on her profile. It was private, but her profile picture showed her smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower. Her bio said she worked at the same firm as Marcus, in their international division. I felt sick. How long had this been going on? How much of our marriage had been a lie? The next morning, I told Greta I needed to run errands and asked if she wanted to come along. She declined, saying she wanted to rest. Marcus had already left for work. I drove to my friend Keisha's house. Keisha was a divorce attorney, one of the best in Atlanta. We had been friends since college. I trusted her completely. I sat in her office and told her everything. I told her about the German conversations, about Annika, about the comments Greta had made. Keisha listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she looked up at me. Jasmine, how sure are you that something illegal is happening? Because if Marcus is just having an affair, that is one thing. But if he is hiding money or moving assets, that is a whole different game. I do not know yet, but I need to find out. Okay, first, do not confront him. Do not let him know you are suspicious. You need to gather evidence. Check bank statements, credit card bills, anything you can find. And record the conversations. If he is speaking in German because he thinks you do not understand, that is to your advantage. I nodded. How do I record without him knowing? Get a voice-activated recorder. Hide it somewhere in the house where they talk the most. The dining room, maybe, or the living room. And do it soon. His mother is only here for a few more days, right? Yeah, she leaves on Sunday. Then you have a small window. Use it. I left Keisha's office and drove straight to an electronics store. I bought a small voice recorder, no bigger than a pack of gum. The clerk showed me how to set it to voice activation, so it would only record when people were talking. I drove home, my heart pounding the entire way. When I got back, Greta was in the living room watching a German news channel on her laptop. I greeted her and went to the kitchen. I hid the recorder under the dining table, wedged between the table leg and the support beam. It was invisible unless you were looking for it. That evening, I acted normal. I made dinner, chatted about nothing important, and then excused myself early, saying I had a client call to prep for. Marcus and Greta stayed at the table, and I heard their voices fade as I went upstairs. The recorder was doing its job. Over the next 3 days, I collected hours of recordings. Every night after Marcus and Greta went to bed, I would sneak down, retrieve the recorder, transfer the files to my laptop, and then put it back before morning. I listened to every conversation with headphones on, taking detailed notes. What I heard made my blood run cold. Marcus and Greta talked openly about his plan to divorce me once he had secured a promotion at work. He said he needed me to stay unaware for now because a divorce would look bad to his bosses. They were traditional and valued family stability. But once he made partner, he could leave me and start fresh with Annika. He said Annika was already helping him move money into offshore accounts. They had been working on this for almost a year. Greta asked if I would fight the divorce. Marcus laughed and said I did not have the brains or the resources to fight him. He said I would probably just take whatever he offered and disappear. He said I was too weak to do anything else. I sat in the dark, listening to my husband describe me like I was nothing, like I was an obstacle to remove, not a person he had promised to love and cherish. I felt anger rise in my chest, but I also felt something else. Clarity. I was not weak. I was not stupid. And I was not going to disappear. The next day, I called Keisha and told her everything I had found. She listened to the recordings and made copies for her files. "This is good," she said. "Really good. You have evidence of asset hiding, which is illegal in a divorce. And his comments about you show his intent. A judge will not look kindly on this." I stood at the kitchen counter, chopping vegetables for dinner. The knife made a steady rhythm against the cutting board. My husband Marcus walked in, kissed my cheek, and grabbed a beer from the fridge. It was a Tuesday evening like any other in our Atlanta home. We had been married for 8 years. Marcus worked as a financial consultant at a big firm downtown. I ran a small interior design business from home. We lived in a nice neighborhood, drove decent cars, and to anyone looking in from the outside, we had a good life. But there was something Marcus did not know about me. Something I had kept hidden since the day we met. I spoke German fluently. My grandmother was from Munich. She came to America in the 1960s and married my grandfather, but she never let go of her language. Growing up, I spent every summer at her house, and she refused to speak English to me during those months. She said I needed to know my heritage. By the time I was 12, I could speak, read, and write German as well as any native. When I went to college, I even minored in German literature. But when I met Marcus at a friend's party 9 years ago, the subject never came up. He never asked if I spoke any other languages. I never volunteered the information. It just did not seem important at the time. Marcus put his beer down and looked at his phone. He had been doing that a lot lately, checking messages and stepping outside to take calls. When I asked him about it, he always said it was work. His firm had taken on some new international clients, and the time zones made everything complicated. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. We had been through rough patches before, like any couple, but we always worked through them. Or at least I thought we did. The following week, Marcus told me his mother Greta was flying in from Germany to visit. She had moved back there 5 years ago after his father passed away. She said she wanted to be closer to her sister in Hamburg. Marcus visited her once a year, but this was the first time she was coming to see us in Atlanta. I was nervous. Greta had never been warm to me. At our wedding, she barely smiled in photos. When we video called on holidays, she was polite but distant. Marcus always made excuses for her, saying she was just old-fashioned and reserved. But I suspected the truth was simpler. She did not think I was good enough for her son. Greta arrived on a Wednesday afternoon. Marcus picked her up from the airport while I stayed home to prepare dinner. I made roast chicken with potatoes and green beans, nothing too fancy, but solid home cooking. When they walked through the door, Greta looked around our living room with an expression I could not quite read. She was a tall woman with steel gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore an expensive-looking navy blue suit and carried a leather handbag that probably cost more than my car payment. "Hello, Greta," I said, moving forward to hug her. She allowed it but did not return the gesture with any warmth. Her body was stiff, and she patted my back twice like she was trying to get rid of dust. "Hello," she said in heavily accented English. "Your home is very nice. Thank you. I hope you will be comfortable here. Your room is ready upstairs." Marcus carried her suitcases up while I went to the kitchen to check on dinner. I could hear them talking upstairs, but I could not make out the words. When they came back down, we all sat at the dining table. I brought out the food, and we started eating. The conversation was awkward at first. Greta asked me polite questions about my work, and I answered them as best I could. Marcus tried to fill the silences with stories about his job. And then something changed. Marcus leaned toward his mother and said something in German. I kept my face neutral, focusing on cutting my chicken. His mother responded in German, and I heard my name, Jasmine, mixed in with words I understood perfectly. She asked him how the business was going, and he said it was complicated. She asked if I knew about the complications, and he said no. I did not need to know everything. I felt my grip tighten on my fork, but I kept eating, kept smiling, kept playing the role of the wife who could not understand. That night, after Greta went to bed, I sat in our bedroom and stared at the wall. Marcus came in and started undressing for bed. "Your mom seems tired," I said. "Yeah, the flight was long. She will feel better tomorrow. Did you two have a good talk at dinner?" He paused for just a second. "Yeah, we mostly caught up on family stuff. Nothing important." I nodded and turned off my bedside lamp. But I did not sleep. I lay there in the dark, listening to Marcus breathe beside me, and I thought about everything he had said in German. He had called our finances complicated. He had said I did not need to know everything. What did that mean? What was he hiding? The next morning, I woke up early and made breakfast. Greta came down wearing a silk robe, and Marcus joined us in his work clothes. He had a meeting at 9 and needed to leave soon. I poured coffee and set out fruit, yogurt, and toast. We ate in silence until Marcus checked his watch and stood up. "I need to go," he said. "Mom, Jasmine will take good care of you today. Maybe you two can go shopping or something." Greta smiled at him. "That sounds lovely." Marcus kissed my cheek and left. As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, Greta's smile disappeared. She looked at me with cold eyes and spoke in German. She said, "I know what you are. You trapped my son with your looks. But he is too smart for you now. He has plans, and you are not part of them." I kept my face blank. I smiled and said in English, "I am sorry, I did not catch that. Would you like more coffee?" "What do I do now?" "We prepare. I am going to file a motion to freeze all joint accounts and credit cards. We are also going to request a forensic accountant to dig into his finances. But here's the thing, Jasmine. Once we do that, he will know you are coming for him. So we have to be ready to move fast." "I am ready." "Good, because this is going to get ugly. He is not going to go down without a fight." I spent the next week gathering more evidence. I pulled every bank statement I could find. I took photos of credit card bills, investment accounts, and even the deed to our house. I made copies of our tax returns from the past 5 years. I downloaded every email I could access from our shared computer. I built a file so thick that Marcus would not be able to lie his way out of it. Greta left on Sunday. Marcus drove her to the airport, and I stayed home. When he came back, he seemed relieved. "I love my mom, but having her here was exhausting," he said. "I bet." He sat down on the couch and turned on a basketball game. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of wine. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Keisha. "Everything is filed. Accounts are frozen as of Monday morning. Be ready." I took a deep breath and texted back. "Ready." Monday morning arrived. Marcus left for work at his usual time. Around 10, my phone rang. It was him. "Jasmine, what the hell did you do?" I kept my voice calm. "I do not know what you were talking about. The bank just called me. They said all our accounts are frozen. Did you do this?" "No, Marcus. I did not do anything." "Bullshit. This has you written all over it. Maybe you should talk to your lawyer instead of yelling at me." He hung up without another word. I sat on the couch and smiled. The game had officially begun. An hour later, Marcus came home. He burst through the front door, his face red with anger. "You think you are so smart, do not you? You think you can just freeze me out?" I looked at him calmly. "I am not the one who has been hiding money in offshore accounts. I am not the one who has been planning to divorce his wife so he can run off with his co-worker. I am not the one who has been lying for a year." His face went pale. "How do you know about that?" "I know a lot of things, Marcus. I know you have been moving money with Annika Hoffman. I know you told your mother I was too weak to fight you. I know you thought I was too stupid to figure it out." He stared at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. "Where did you hear that?" I smiled. "Let us just say I understand more than you think." Realization dawned on his face. "You speak German." Fluently. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands. "Jasmine, listen. It is not what you think." "Oh, it is exactly what I think. And my lawyer has recordings to prove it." He looked up, panic in his eyes. "You recorded us?" "Every word." Every conversation you had with your mother. Every time you thought I could not understand. All of it. He stood up, his fists clenched. You cannot use that in court. That is illegal. Actually, in Georgia, it is perfectly legal to record conversations in your own home. My lawyer already checked. Marcus started pacing. Okay. Let us talk about this. We can work something out. You do not need to blow this up. I shook my head. There is nothing to work out, Marcus. You made your choice when you decided to betray me. Now you get to live with the consequences. He tried a different approach. Think about what you are doing. If you go through with this, it is going to cost both of us a lot of money. Lawyers, accountants, court fees. Would it not be easier to just split things quietly? I crossed my arms. You mean, would it not be easier for you if I just took whatever scraps you wanted to give me and walked away? That is what you told your mother I would do, right? That I was too weak to fight? He had no answer. I continued. Here is what is going to happen. My lawyer is going to dig into every account you have, every transfer you made, every penny you tried to hide. And when we are done, you are not going to have anything left to give to Annika or anyone else. You are making a huge mistake. No, Marcus, the mistake was yours. You thought I was stupid. You thought I would never find out. You thought I did not speak German. He stared at me and I saw something shift in his eyes. It was not anger anymore. It was fear. Over the next few weeks, the legal battle intensified. Keisha filed motion after motion. We requested access to all of Marcus's financial records, including his work accounts. His lawyer fought back, but the judge was not sympathetic. When we presented the recordings of Marcus and Greta discussing the offshore accounts, the judge ordered a full forensic audit. Marcus tried to claim the recordings were taken out of context, but Keisha had transcripts prepared, translated by a certified translator. There was no wiggling out of it. The forensic accountant found everything. Marcus had moved over $2 million into accounts under Annika's name. He had been doing it slowly, transferring small amounts over the course of a year, so it would not raise red flags. But it was all there, documented in bank transfers and emails. The accountant also found that Marcus had been billing personal expenses to his company, claiming they were business costs. He had been doing this for years, essentially stealing from his own employer. When the company found out, they fired him immediately. Not only did he lose his job, but they also filed a lawsuit against him for fraud. Marcus's whole world came crashing down in a matter of weeks. Keisha called me one afternoon with an update. Jasmine, his lawyer, reached out. They want to settle. What are they offering? Everything. He is willing to give you the house, the cars, and half of what is left after the company lawsuit. He does not want this to go to trial. What about Annika? She lawyered up too. Claimed she did not know the money was from marital assets. But that is her problem, not yours. I thought about it. As much as I wanted to drag Marcus through a public trial, I also wanted this to be over. I wanted to move on with my life. Tell them I will settle, I said. But I wanted in writing that he admits to hiding assets and committing fraud. I want a signed confession. Keisha paused. You sure about that? It is not standard in a settlement. I am sure. I want him to admit what he did. A week later, we sat in a conference room. Marcus, his lawyer, me, and Keisha. Marcus looked terrible. He had lost weight and his eyes were hollow. He would not look at me. His lawyer slid a stack of papers across the table. This is the settlement agreement. Your client gets the house, both vehicles, and half of the liquid assets. My client also agrees to pay spousal support for 3 years. I looked at Keisha. And the confession? She pulled out another document. Right here. He admits to hiding marital assets and moving funds without your knowledge. It is all in writing. Marcus's lawyer cleared his throat. My client wants to make it clear that this confession is only for the purposes of the divorce settlement. It cannot be used in any other legal proceedings. I smiled. That is fine. I just want him to admit it to me. Marcus finally looked up. Jasmine, I am sorry. I never meant for it to get this bad. I met his eyes. You are not sorry you did it. You are sorry you got caught. There is a difference. He looked away. I picked up a pen and signed the papers. Marcus did the same. It was over. After the divorce was finalized, I sold the house. It had too many bad memories. I bought a smaller place in a different part of town, closer to Keisha and my other friends. I threw myself into my work, taking on bigger projects and expanding my business. I even hired an assistant, a smart young woman named Tara who reminded me a little of myself when I was starting out. One day, about 6 months after the divorce, I was at a coffee shop working on designs for a client. Someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around and saw Marcus standing there. He looked even worse than the last time I had seen him. His clothes were wrinkled and he had dark circles under his eyes. "Jasmine, can we talk?" I closed my laptop. "What do you want, Marcus?" He sat down across from me without being invited. "I just wanted to say I am sorry. Really sorry. I messed up and I know that now." "Okay. Apology noted. Anything else?" He leaned forward. "I lost everything, Jasmine. My job, my reputation, even Annika. She left me as soon as the money dried up. I am living in a one-bedroom apartment and working at a call center. I just wanted you to know I paid the price for what I did." I looked at him for a long moment. "You know what, Marcus? I do not care. I really do not. You made your choices, and now you get to live with them. That is how life works." He looked like he wanted to say more, but he just nodded and stood up. "Take care, Jasmine. You too, Marcus." He walked out of the coffee shop and I watched him go. I did not feel anger anymore. I did not feel satisfaction. I just felt nothing. He was a chapter in my life that was closed, and I had no interest in reopening it. A few months later, I got a call from an old college friend. Her name was Nina, and we had been roommates during our junior year. She was calling to invite me to her wedding in Germany. She was marrying a man she had met while working abroad, and the ceremony was going to be in Munich, the same city where my grandmother had been born. I booked my flight immediately. I had not been to Germany since I was a teenager, and I was excited to go back. The wedding was beautiful, held in a historic church with stained glass windows that filtered the sunlight into shades of blue and gold. After the ceremony, there was a reception at a vineyard outside the city. The air smelled like grapes and fresh bread. I sat at a table with other friends from college, laughing and catching up. During dinner, a man approached our table. He was tall, with kind eyes and a warm smile. He introduced himself as Stefan, a friend of Nina's husband. We talked for hours. He was a professor of history at a university in Munich, and he had a dry sense of humor that made me laugh more than I had in months. When he found out I spoke German, his face lit up. "Finally, someone I can talk to without having to switch to English every 5 minutes," he said. We spent the rest of the evening speaking in German, talking about everything from literature to politics to the best bakeries in Munich. When the night ended, he asked if he could see me again before I flew back to the States. I said yes. We spent the next 3 days together, exploring the city. He showed me places my grandmother had told me about when I was a child, places I had only seen in old photographs. We walked through parks, visited museums, and ate in small cafes where the waiters knew him by name. On my last night, we stood on a bridge overlooking the river. The city lights reflected on the water, and the air was cool and crisp. Stefan turned to me. "I know you're going back to America tomorrow, but I would like to stay in touch. If you want to, of course." I smiled. "I would like that." We exchanged numbers and promised to call. When I boarded the plane the next morning, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Hope. Over the next few months, Stefan and I talked every day. Video calls, texts, emails. We shared our lives across the ocean. He told me about his students and his research. I told him about my business and my friends. We made each other laugh. We challenged each other's ideas. We supported each other through bad days and celebrated the good ones. Eventually, we started talking about what it would take to close the distance between us. Stefan offered to move to America, but I knew how much his work meant to him. I suggested I move to Germany instead. My business could operate remotely, and I had always wanted to live abroad. It felt like the right time to take a leap. A year after I met Stefan, I packed up my life in Atlanta and moved to Munich. I found a beautiful apartment near the university where he taught. I set up a home office with big windows that let in the morning light. I started taking on clients in Europe, and my business grew in ways I had not expected. Stefan and I got married in a small ceremony at the same church where I had attended Nina's wedding. My friends flew in from the States, and Stefan's family welcomed me with open arms. We did not have a big reception. We just had a quiet dinner with the people we loved most, and it was perfect. Looking back, I sometimes think about the moment I first heard Marcus speaking German at our dining table. I think about how close I came to staying silent, to pretending I did not understand. But I am glad I did not. I am glad I listened. I am glad I fought back. Because if I had not, I would still be living a lie. I would still be married to a man who saw me as an obstacle instead of a partner. Now, I wake up every morning in a city my grandmother loved, speaking a language she taught me, living a life she would be proud of. I run a successful business. I have friends who support me. And I have a husband who sees me for who I really am. Not too weak. Not too simple. Just me. Sometimes, late at night, Stefan and I sit on our balcony and watch the city lights. He speaks to me in German, and I answer in the same language. And I think about how much power there is in being underestimated, how much strength there is in silence, and how much freedom there is in finally being heard. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Thank you so much for your sweet support. I am looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There is so much more on my channel. Do not forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.